Good evening, viewers. Good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, in the last 10 odd days, especially for the first week since the new vaccine procurement and distribution policy came into play with a bigger role from the centre, much has been discussed about the higher pace of vaccination. We started off with above 90 lakh vaccine doses being given on one single day, though it then tapered off through the week. This week, it's been slower. But a lot of conversation is about how we can step it up and what needs to be the daily speed if we do want to meet the target that the centre has set of vaccinating everybody by the end of this year. That's the ambitious target that the government set out. Minister after minister spoke about how they will have 216 crore doses by the end of this year with projections for each of the brands. But when the time came, and you know this by now, when the time came to put it in written in front of a court, the central government removed all the projections that were based on assumptions that were not final contracts, where there was no surety for brands and vaccine candidates who either not even finished the trials or have not sought permission and are not in the market currently in our country. Keeping those aside, the projections came down to 135 crore. But here is the interesting part in that. In the earlier government claims for 216 crore versus this 135 crore doses, there is also a revision in the projection for Covishield and Covaxin. So one can understand when the government says, oh, we don't want to right now project how much Moderna or Pfizer or Bharat Biotech's nasal vaccine or any other vaccine that doesn't have permission right now, how much will they give us? But one does have to ask questions when the projections that were made for Covishield and Covaxin, the two made in India vaccines, the two vaccines we've had in our country since January, the projections for those differ. So let me bring up that data for you. What is it that the government first said in the month of May? And the projections were made out for over 200 crore doses by the end of this year. And if you see for Covishield and Covaxin, for Covishield, the projection now in the government affidavit to Supreme Court has come down from 75 crore to 50 crore. And for Covaxin, it's come down from 55 crore to 40 crore. The others also have been, in a sense, revised, including Sputnik, which is now in our market. So tonight we're going to talk about multiple aspects of the big vaccination challenge. And we're going to break it down for you. Angle number one is going to be about how the government has cut the supply target for August to December, the details of which I just told you. Angle number two will be how the supplies in January to May were also below estimates. Why is the government lowering the future targets? Because they just looked at the data and said, wait, whatever we were supposed to get till May or even June hasn't come in. And that's when they began to look at the reality. Alarmed then, the centre realized that there was something amiss with the Covaxin production and the orders that had been placed and what Covaxin was actually giving. That brings us to our third angle, where we now know that the centre will look into the production facilities, the timelines for the new facilities for ties with institutes such as Haffkin and what's happening on that front. And I will tell you why Covaxin production has become such a big concern. And now all of this then culminates into the big question, which is the angle 4. Is this target now unrealistic, or is there still some hope? So let's look at the reality. It's claim versus the realities, and where will we be then by the end of this year? I say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now. Murali Neelakantan, lawyer specializing in healthcare law and former Global General Counsel for Cipla and Glenmark. Rajinder Suri, Chief Executive Officer for Developing Countries Vaccine Manufacturers Network. Dr. Chandrakant Lahiriya, Vaccine and Public Policy and Health Systems Expert, who joins us this evening. Abantika Ghosh, Health Editor for The Print, also with us this evening. And Sridhar V, Associate Editor with The Frontline magazine. But first up, I want to go across to Ayushman to break it down for us. Ayushman, let's start off with what you're picking up from your own sources about the concern within the government, and why are they concerned? What is it about the supplies from these two companies in the last couple of months that has gotten the government now looking into the issue?
Well, Tanvi, we started with the question as to why in the national capital, why only second dose of Covaxin is being administered. We took it to the health ministry officials who said the production is going to be ramped up. in the Supreme Court projection, the projection has been brought down that we know it is by 81 crore. And when we asked about it, the official said that even when in the first 5 months, about 30% less than what they were expecting was given to them. Now, we wanted to know what is happening at the Karnataka plant of Bharat Biotech. The officials said that somewhere the amount that was expected, the full functioning hasn't yet started, and that is why in the coming days the center is going to discuss the Covaxin's production with the Bharat Biotech. At the same time, we wanted to understand what is happening with Covaxin. Why Covaxin's number has been brought down. Serum Institute is the largest producer of vaccine, but what is happening with Bharat Biotech? And if Bharat Biotech's numbers have been brought down to 40 million, is the center assured that in the coming future, this number will be given and this amount of vaccine will be delivered? Though the center says that in the coming days, it is possible. Of the 4 PSCs, public sector companies, 3 public sector companies, currently the status of production of vaccination, what will happen, how much of the technology transfer has taken place, is only clear in IIL, which is based out of Hyderabad. In 2 of the other, Hafkin and Ipcol in Bulandshahr, still the clarity is awaited. The officials are not speaking. The important aspect is the vaccine crunch, the production crunch, which has been talked about. The panelists are already there. They have been talking about it. The important aspect remains that center has cut down projection. In May only, it had said that they will be providing 216 crore doses by the year end. And in Supreme Court, this projection has been cut down by more than 81 crore. It is very, very important to understand that the production capacity is being revised, because somewhere the government also feels that the producers or the manufacturers don't have the capacity that they were eyeing initially, and that's why the center is again talking with the producers.
Okay, so they don't have the capacity, and the concerning part also is, and this has been much discussed and highlighted, that Covaxin hasn't even been able to meet what has been ordered so far. Ayushman, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to take this across to our experts now as well. Covaxin, in fact, up until March, was supposed to give about 2 crore. They've only, even of that batch, they've only right now given 1.8 crore. Some is still left. So according to the center's own affidavit, what from March to May batch is still pending, and nothing from the May batch onwards has even begun. Yet I find, and let me take this across to Abantika first. Abantika, yet I find that in this estimate, they are expecting 40 crore of Covaxin doses as well. Now, even if, they have corrected it, does 40 crores still look like an achievable target? Because Covaxin right now doesn't seem to be producing any.
Not really. Even this month, the numbers that the government of India has shared with the states, it's 12 crore. And I believe Covaxin is still around 1 crore. So which means to achieve 40 crore by July, they will have to do something like 8 crore from August onwards. So that means an 8-fold increase, and how that is going to happen is beyond me, because except for Bharat's own, I think there is one, I'm forgetting the place, they are stopping the present production there, and they will produce Covaxin, that much I know. But all the others that we have in the pipeline will not work this year. And the problem here rests certainly with the government, because Hafkin Institute, for example, Ayushman was talking about Hafkin. Hafkin had asked for permissions in February, and now what took the government between February and April to give those permissions? Because it's not like and vaccine production it's a very investment intensive process. It's a very specialized process. It's not like you give me permission today, I start producing from tomorrow. Hafkin has actually asked, they have said they need a year to get to a point where they can produce reasonable amounts. And now the government wants them to shorten that timeline and do it in 6 months. I don't know if they can do it. But here's the thing. A vaccine it's a life-saving thing, but you can't go wrong. There are very specific safety requirements, For Covaxin particularly, you need BSL-3 facility because it's a live killed virus. So all of those things taken together, I think, especially for Covaxin, because the government of India was a partner in it, it's receiving a 5% royalty. It's supposed to receive on the sale price. I think the fact that Covaxin manufacture is lagging so much, the responsibility lies squarely with the government of India, and it's somewhat insane, I would say, projections in the beginning of the year that no, we would not need to vaccinate the entire population. The Secretary Health is on record saying we never said we will vaccinate everybody. So I think that rests squarely with the government of India.
Well, yeah, and I think that kind of playing around with words will continue, whether we said we will vaccinate everybody, or we meant only the adults, or in the adults we meant a majority that is sufficient to break the chain in some manner. And I think as the situation changes, that wordplay can continue. But let me bring in Mr. Rajinder Suri. And Mr. Suri, explain to us this. Many are also asking the question, if Bharat Biotech is not able to deliver on what has been ordered already, why is it that the government is going further and ordering more and more vaccines? But wouldn't it be correct to also say that all countries are doing that? All countries are placing orders in advance for whenever those vaccines are being manufactured and are ready, they can be given to us. In such a scenario, shouldn't the onus be on government to give a correct projection? We can't say that Bharat Biotech is not giving you the vaccines, that's why you have to revise your projection. The problem was that you overestimated it.
Thank you, Tanviji. Thank you for inviting me here on this forum. Unfortunately, I can't see you. I can't see anybody, frankly. So I don't know what is the technical hitch. So by the time I think your technical experts fix that, let me continue. I would like to say a few things, and I would like to draw your attention back to almost 1 year back. In the month of May or June 2020, did anybody believe that we'll be able to vaccinate and protect more than 30 crore people in the country, which has been done? And I think all of us probably, need to be a little bit sympathetic and appreciative of what vaccine manufacturers have done under most trying circumstances. I think this is very important for us to really understand the complexity that goes in manufacturing of vaccines. We are playing with numbers. We are talking about projections. We are talking about, whether it should be 216 crores or 135 crores or whatever. What is the strategic intent? What is the vision? The vision is to protect a large majority of people in the country who are at risk. And we are talking about adults. Now, the birth cohort of India is 25 million children. That means we're talking 2.5 crore every year. So if you take up to 18 years, straight away 45 crores is out. So out of 135 crores, you are left with 90 crore population. Even if you take that it is a 2-dose schedule, it is 180 crore. So if I go by the numbers which I have just heard from the honorable panelists, if we are talking about 50 crores by end of July and 135 crores by end of December, that means we are talking about 185 crores, which should be good enough to vaccinate all adults in the country.
So you believe that 135 crores is an achievable target?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you believe that 135 crore by end of the year is an achievable target?
Tanviji, once again, I would like to emphasize here, please understand, we are talking about a very complex product which has several components. It is almost 150, 200 components, and it undergoes 200 quality control tests. So anything can go wrong anywhere. You are projecting in the best of your estimates. But when we are talking about, and we are not just talking about the two vaccine manufacturers, we are also talking about large number of manufacturers who are on the anvil of entering the marketplace. So all those will be additional doses which will be made available. But definitely you cannot consider that as on today unless they are given EUA or emergency use authorization or whatever. So I think we have to keep the whole thing in perspective, understand exactly what are the challenges, what are the real estimates that we are talking about. And if the government of India has come forward and given an affidavit to the Supreme Court, I think this is in the best interest of everybody, that this is minimum that we are looking at. However, talking of projection and forecast, I think, if you are asking specifically about a company, then you will probably need to ask that company directly that how much is their capacity and how much
Fair.
they can
Yeah.
contribute.
Okay, so you have raised a very interesting point, and I want to just highlight a little bit more about that aspect with Dr. Chandrakant Laharia. Dr. Chandrakant Laharia, we did look at the production schedule that the government seems to be working with, especially for Covaxin. Now, Covaxin and Covishield, every few days there is a new press release saying, oh, our estimate is 70 million doses by this XYZ month, 100 million doses by end of the year or next year, and so that keeps changing. But is this production capacity that government or the companies talk about supposed to be taken as from the date that they start off this production or from the date that this kind of a supply gets realized? Because we understand it takes 120 days for one batch to be made in a sense.
Yeah, so this is what you are saying, that 120 days it takes to produce Covaxin. And if we do back calculation, that any of the plant which will go into manufacturing starting somewhere mid-August is unlikely to produce any Covaxin. And we don't foresee that kind of situation, that many of the units which are being projected to produce Covaxin will go into that kind of production, or the running and functioning to start vaccine production. So I think all of these numbers are very tentative. This has been discussed in the past in your program, that vaccine manufacturing is a complex process and the manufacturers always over-project. As far as your question is concerned, that whether 1.85 billion is achievable by December, that is what government need to vaccinate all adult population as per the original plan. But we also need to remember that even if that many doses are produced, it is very unlikely that that many doses can be administered. So the actual need for the country, as per going by the expected daily vaccination rate, would be far lower than this one. So that's a definitely important question that we discussed, that what would be the actual production. But we also need to remember how much India can utilize by then. I would say that going by various estimates in the vaccination program, especially the childhood vaccination program, where 100% of vaccines are available, but even then we have a coverage of 80%. That is the best achievable coverage in childhood vaccination program, where there is a high level of acceptance among its population. But we know that India has not done such kind of, or no country in the world has done that kind of adult mass vaccination program. So expecting 100% coverage in adult population is definitely unrealistic, and that's not going to happen, at least not in this year, maybe sometimes next year. I would argue that somewhere around late September or somewhere in October, India would had a sufficient vaccine production, more vaccine supply than India can utilize. Then the demand would be there. So at that point of time, India would be exceeding the supply, would be more than enough, more than the demand which is there, and that's what India should start focusing now, rather than projecting only on the dosage of vaccine would be available. Now the attention should be to achieve increasing coverage or increasing vaccine acceptance in the country, and that is another thought we need to start.
Yes, absolutely. I'm completely 100% with you on that, increasing the coverage, increasing the acceptance. But, all of that also centers around how we plan the policy and, distribute it and divide it among states and districts and villages. And that depends on how much you have. Murli, for Covaxin, only 2.8 crore doses given as of June 12th. They're set to miss the 8 crore doses deadline by July. Like I said in the initial one also, that a lot is pending even from what they were supposed to give earlier, let alone what they had to start from May. Now, who do we blame for this claims versus reality mismatch? Can we really say that there is something going wrong on ground, or is it that we just overestimated it initially?
I think it's just poor planning, Tanvi. Most of these things can be planned very well. Of course, with Covaxin production, there will be some hits and misses because of the way the production is done. So when a batch is completed, you will not get the same number of doses every time. So there will be a small difference between one batch and another. But that doesn't explain the poor planning. Firstly, when was the ordering done? We still haven't found anything in the affidavit that says X number of doses have been ordered for the year. The ordering numbers are only 80 crores. So we still haven't ordered the amount that we need, whether it is 1.8 billion or it's 2.16 billion, whatever that number is, we still haven't ordered that number. We're still ordering at 80 crores. So we're a long way off from saying what will we have at the end if we haven't even ordered that in the first phase. Now, if you don't order enough, what is really the planning that manufacturers can do to say we will start producing it? I agree it's a complex process, but it's not a unique process. So we could have planned January, February, March for production for the rest of the year. But failure to order and failure to sit down with the manufacturers and have a plan and say, what are the bottlenecks? How can we deal with it? That is the failing of government. It's not the failing of manufacturers. We still don't know month by month production schedules, which is what the Supreme Court has asked the government to provide in an affidavit and hasn't been provided in an affidavit. All we have for production numbers is what a minister will put out on Twitter or on Instagram. And those numbers aren't matching the ordered numbers and are not matching what's in the affidavit. So squarely, the problem lies with government. Nobody else can be blamed for this.
But the messaging that seems to be coming right now is that, Mr. Sridhar, the companies gave these estimates, which is why we placed these orders, and now they're not coming in. So now, for example, the government sources seem to suggest that they are now looking into why Covaxin is not able to give us more.
I would like to put this a little differently. I mean, relying on projections as as a reliable indicator of what to expect in terms of vaccines is clearly proving to be grossly, unreliable. So, in fact, it is perhaps more useful to look at how many are actually getting vaccinated, and then treat that as the supply. Okay, so forget about the new projections for 1,350 million vaccines. Even the vaccines, even forget the problem with Covaxin for the moment. Even Covishield, we based on the past orders that are deliverable up to July, we have only 70 million doses available for delivery in July. That is what is pending from Covishield now, from Serum Institute. That means 2.33 million doses per day over July. Now, what was the strike rate in June? That was about 4 million doses per day. Now, if you want to do, if you're saying that you're going to expect 1,350 million doses over the entire period between the 5 months between August and December, you are actually claiming that your strike rate will increase to about 9 million doses per day. Now, if you actually go by the figures, in April we vaccinated at the rate of average rate of about 2.94 million doses per day. In May, it plummeted to 1.93, and in June till yesterday, it's about 4 million doses per day, which is an improvement. But at this rate, if we go at this rate, we are going to take something like 380 days, 390 days, say about 13 months. But if you go at the rate of only 4, then it's going to take up to the end of 2022 to vaccinate this population, which the government has claimed it is committed to vaccinate. Now, the problem here is as follows, as drawing from what Dr. Laharia mentioned, we have already grabbed the low-hanging fruit. That is the urban metros and the large cities and so on. So progressing further is going to be more and more difficult as you go into semi-rural and rural areas to vaccinate people. overcoming not just vaccine hesitancy, but the gross inconvenience that people are subjected to, standing for long hours in queues and being subjected to harassment, and the unreliable working of the CoWIN portal and all of it. Then you are going to make it even more difficult for people this target to be reached.
Okay, that's an interesting way of looking at things as well, to say, look at how far we've come, and the number of vaccines that we have administered, the pace that keeps going up and down. So let me go back to that aspect, and let me take that point to Mr. Suri. Mr. Suri, we have stepped up. At least the month of June has been relatively better than the disaster that we saw in the first half of May. But again, for all of the expectation of more doses to come and thereby increasing our speed depends on how quickly we are able to set up the additional facilities. Now, can you shed some light on the complicated process that is there to set up a vaccine making facility, the safety levels that have to be followed, and how that can itself take 6 months to even a year or more?
Certainly. Thank you very much. A very insightful question, and I would like to attempt to do justice to that. Particularly when we are talking about Covaxin, because a lot of time has been invested in by the panelists on the Covaxin part. Covaxin is inactivated vaccine, and I must tell you that as far as inactivated vaccines is concerned, you are dealing with a virus which is highly contagious, which is highly infectious. That's SARS-CoV-2 we are talking about. So the inactivation process requires a BSL-3 facility, the Biosafety Level 3 facility. So it cannot be done in any facility that you are having today, for example, because the ICMR strain was available, NIV strain was available to everybody. Everybody could have started, but somebody has taken the pains and started the manufacturing of that vaccine. Just to give you an output ratio, input-output ratio, if you have a 10,000 square meter facility, you will be able to produce 200 million doses compared to any other vaccine where you are talking about 1,500 square meter and you will be able to produce the same quantity. So it is almost 6 times the space that you require, and it's a facility which is contained, high level of containment that we are talking about. So that is one part. The second part is, the yields are very variable. When we are talking about the yields, at various levels of the process, there are losses. So ultimately, what you are going to get is the final doses. That is what matters. And that can vary because these are not chemical processes. These are biological processes. So it can vary. And therefore, month-to-month yields can be low or high. Now, another thing which is important is that there is a very highly capable, competent technical team which is required to absorb the technology, because you are talking about transferring the technology to various other units which can absorb this technology and then reproduce the vaccine as quickly as possible to make sure that these volumes are met. So again, the training of these people, the availability of these people, the technical part of the vaccine is going to be very complex. So the companies which have already been in vaccine manufacturing, they are aware about the pains that it takes to really conceive and deliver the vaccine. And I am sure that the companies like Hafkin and Bibcol and other companies that we are talking about are definitely going to absorb the technology in due course and will be able to scale up. Because scaling up and scaling out both are going to be challenging. And what I am saying at the same time is that the manufacturers are not leaving any stone unturned to make sure that the vaccines are delivered to the maximum available time. They're working 24/7, all the people. And this is very important to understand and keep in perspective when we are talking about the numbers. So we are very confident that the production levels are going up, and hopefully we'll be able to deliver much higher quantity than in the coming months than are being delivered. May was an exceptional month, but if you see June, 4 crore doses, 40 million doses is not a small number to be delivered.
No, so what is your response to the fact that the government has given this detailed affidavit of what we have ordered versus what the suppliers have given us and how they are lagging behind in the previous orders as well? Isn't it misleading then for the government to give us random estimates that are not realistic and insist they are realistic until things get out of hand? And then seem to be blaming the manufacturers for it.
Tanviji, I would like to, spare the word lagging behind. Manufacturers have not been lagging behind. We are actually going much, much better forward compared to what has been the scene. So we are not lagging behind. However, having said that, I would also like to mention that again, there are certain forecasts which have to be shared with transparently with the manufacturers. What are your expectations? And you order those quantities and we'll be able to deliver. However, again, between what is the transaction, that I am not privy.
Correct.
And neither I would like to make a comment on that, because that's unfair on my part.
No, absolutely. I am only going as per what the government is putting out there, which is why I asked you this question, so you can put across, the view and the argument from the manufacturer's end as well. Because it's very easy for a table to be put out where you say, well, our first order was in all about 6.6 crore vaccines which were received and utilized. Our second order was 12 crore vaccines for which the timeline was till May. But there are still pending there. Our third order was for about another 16 crore vaccines between Covishield and Covaxin. Covaxin is yet to start the supply. Now, the government is writing that in the status, saying they are yet to start the supply from May, clearly because the government wants everybody to know that Bharat Biotech was supposed to give this, Abantika, and they haven't. And now we are going to look into why they haven't, what happened to the new facilities, why are they not able to deliver. And hence this conversation, because it must be made very clear whether it would be fair to put the entire blame on Bharat Biotech, which is fighting so many battles from Brazil to US and India now.
So I think one unifying factor in all these 18 months that we have been fighting this virus has been the government of India's incessant search for scapegoats, for decisions that squarely lay with the government. It has time and time again looked for scapegoats to shoulder the burden. And I say this because, there is a 900 crore integrated vaccine manufacturing plant in Chengalpattu in Tamil Nadu that was built specifically for these kinds of situations. It was actually supposed to manufacture, if I remember correctly, measles, rabies, and some other vaccines. But that facility had, at that point of time when it was built, a projected capacity of manufacturing 585 million doses. That's a lot of vaccines. Now, it seems that the government of India, when it was planning for this pandemic, was in a state of partial amnesia. Because last July, when Dr. Balram Bhargav was hassling vaccine principal investigators of Covaxin to sort of finish a 6-month schedule of trials in 6 weeks, it absolutely, I cannot understand for the life of me, why were we not at the same time, trying to get Chengalpattu in place?
Yeah.
The government of India, the Ministry of Health, actually got Chengalpattu. They took out tenders for running Chengalpattu sometime in January. That's the kind of planning we have done, or the lack of planning. So when also, somebody mentioned about orders, exactly, it's a commercial business enterprise. If you are not placing orders, look at what other countries did. They were ordering vaccines which were still in various stages of trial. They had no clearances, nothing. And the government of India just stood there and it kept telling us that why should we order vaccines that are not licensed?
Yes.
This is a pandemic. And we are not stingy businessmen trying to save a few pennies. We're talking about saving lives. When Mr. Adar Poonawalla, I think somewhere in November, December last year, he gave this estimate of 80,000 crore for vaccinating everybody. Government officials in conversation with us, they ridiculed that statement. But it wasn't so off the mark, was it?
Yeah.
Why were we not acting on these things? That's what I absolutely fail to understand.
Let me take that point across to Dr. Chandrakant Laharia as well. Dr. Laharia, the world over norms are that in times of pandemic, you do move quickly because everybody wants the same vaccine. Everybody is going to be fighting for it. Each country wants more and more for their own people. But we were the ones who decided to wait, see what comes out of a trial, test it up to our benchmark, approve it, and then start placing the order. Do you believe that, in hindsight at least, that was the wrong way to go? And what could have explained this kind of a stand?
So it is very clear that some mistakes have been made, and which include that government overestimated the production capacity of the two manufacturers, and it underestimated the demand. But we also know that the original plan of the government was to vaccinate 330 million individual only. The plan to scale up to the adult population came at the last minute. So there have been mistakes and errors at every stage. But there is no alternative. Whatever was the plan, there should have been a detailed plan and forward-looking thinking. That future requirements should have been factored in. But we also need to remember that there was a point in India in early part of year when many people started thinking that pandemic is over. And when that kind of thinking is going on, you don't plan for the vaccination. And I guess that also contributed to the entire discourse. Having said that, I believe that all of those dialogues and discourse and analysis has happened. The key is that are we learning from those errors? Are we doing any better from those past experiences? And it seems that the kind of projections which are made, which indicate that we are not thorough and we are not that detailed in the approach. Otherwise, in 2 months earlier, you would not say 2.16 billion, and then 6 weeks later, you would say that, okay, this is far less. It's useful. Like I appreciate that it has been reduced and the newer projections are really realistic, actually realistic. But are we planning all the things together? We still don't see a detailed plan. What is harm in preparing a detailed plan and putting this in a public domain so people know? Like, people will criticize, but that's how the program will improve. That's how the things will improve. And as some of the previous speakers have highlighted, that India in 2008 had a public sector units which were producing vaccines. Now, lately, the country has completely relied on a private sector manufacturers. Now, if a country like India, which want to claim as a vaccine manufacturer for the world, there is no logic that it should be private sector vaccine manufacturers from India to the world. Indian government should have its the units which are vaccine manufacturing unit to produce vaccine. And now the final part is, I think this is a good start that some of the Indian public sector units are being revived. But those should not be revived only for the COVID-19 vaccines. Now, Indian government should be looking more broader to produce other vaccines also through public sector unit. That's how India will achieve self-sufficiency in all the vaccines, and also that will be the futuristic and preparedness for any eventuality in the time ahead.
Yes, who knows what comes next, what kind of virus hits us next. Who knows how many of these vaccine doses will we need, if there will be booster shots, and for how long will that continue. And that kind of planning has to start now, but not at a later stage. Mr. Sridhar, I come back to you because you also made a very pertinent point about what's happening right now and how we're able to how much are we able to vaccinate right now. For the month of June, we managed to administer about 10 crore doses. But there are still, some indications that the 25%, for example, that is being given to the private hospitals perhaps is a bit much. And a lot of stock which is lying there could actually be used right away to vaccinate a lot more people had it been in the government pipeline. Do you think, we need to look at those aspects as well to put out more supply into the system?
Yeah, I would like to address this drawing on both what Avantika as well as Dr. Lahari was saying. One is that you can no longer, we don't have a vaccination policy, period. That's where we are today. And that's, I think, the biggest problem with the system, because if there is a shortage, you need to let science and epidemiology decide how you will prioritize vaccination. And for that, you need a policy. We don't have a policy. All we have is what is called a liberalized pricing and accelerated national COVID-19 vaccination strategy. Now, a policy I mean, all of us understand what a policy is. A policy basically sets out the problem, defines the scenario in which the country is in, and devises a strategy or how to approach this problem. And that is a transparent document available to everybody. Today, we don't have any idea about what the government plans to do. Who is going to be vaccinated? It is very, very fuzzy. So not only do we have a shortage, but we don't have the means of administering dealing with the pandemic. How we allocate these vaccines which are in short supply, and that I think is a very sad thing, because India has been very successful in vaccination. We have had a policy. Now we turned it upside down in April, and we abandoned what we had, and now we are just nowhere. I mean, that to me is a real. I mean, if there are mistakes that have been made, to correct it, I think we first need a policy that is transparent. Enunciated in consultation with experts and the medical fraternity and medical researchers, and one that is very clear to people and it is conveyed to people very transparently. I don't think we have that, and we need to make a start now.
Yeah, okay, so let me take that point across to Murli. Murli, let's talk now about, again, and as we've always focused on course correction and what is it that should ideally be done. Do you agree that there is a larger, clearer, comprehensive policy which is still required?
Well, of course, we still require a better policy. I think we just need to go back to the old policy, which was there in January. What we've done is make policy every other day. Even after what the Prime Minister announced, there have been changes. So the private manufacturers were supposed to do a deal directly with hospitals. Now that changed. Then they said states will do the deal, accumulate the demand, send it to the center. Then a week after that, they said, no, states will not do it, center will do it directly. Then the hospitals were told, no, you will get 25%, but it will be done on a hospital by hospital basis. We are excluding the states from it. Now we understand 2 days ago that each hospital will send it directly to the central government, and the central government will work out through these tens of thousands of hospitals how much each of them will get. Then we got yesterday another announcement saying that we will now decide what is the maximum you will get. So as Sridhar said, to this day, we don't have a policy. Every day we seem to have a new policy, and that can't go on. You can't keep changing your mind every day, which just shows that we haven't thought through this. The Supreme Court asked the government to state how it arrived at this policy. And it's interesting to read paragraph 13 in the affidavit, in which the government says, and I'm ashamed to say this, that they decided policy based on newspaper articles written by people. I don't know which articles they read, but they weren't reading what Sridhar and I have written, and perhaps what Dr. Laharia has been writing. So clearly we need to know which are these articles, who are these experts that the government has been consulting, and this policy has come out. So I'm waiting to see what the next affidavit is going to be, because the Supreme Court clearly is not going to be happy with this affidavit explaining how they arrived at this policy. But my suggestion would be go back to what we had in January, which was the policy we've had since 2011, which is everybody gets vaccinated. There is a process for it. There is a process for procurement of it. There is a process for distribution of it. Just go back to that. Stop fiddling around. I mean, we've tried it, right? Since April, we've tried to fiddle around with it. We must give up on this and say there is no more fiddling that can be done. We are not wiser than all those people who came up with the policy earlier. Let's go back. This is not an issue of ego. Let's work on supply, which is quite a simple thing to do. The process of forecasting supply is not difficult. Every day we know what is happening to the process. Every day we know in each process what the yield is going to be, what the loss is going to be. So these are all things that we know very well. To say that it is a complex process is not an answer. A complex process means we have better monitoring, we have better metrics, to understand forecasting. There are several complex processes. This is not a new problem. We just seem to handle it exceptionally badly.
At the end of it, when we started conversations about it, we said that, India has so much experience in large-scale immunization programs because we have so many of them which are even now extremely active, and so we already have a fair idea. We also had an electronic network that just had to be revamped and customized to what had to be done. We already have the experts who know how to do it. We have the rural distribution reach. All of that was there, Dr. Lahiriya, but some key decisions which went haywire. But now let's talk about what can be changed. What is the next thing that we need course correction in? We now have well established that even the current estimates, which are more reasonable than what the earlier one was, we'll have to see how much the companies are able to deliver. What else can be done to streamline this entire process? For example, the recent order of the government about hospitals and the distribution to hospitals is because some of them seem to be stockpiling just because they can within the quota of 25%, Dr. Lahiriya. If a private hospital starts sitting on vaccines that they're not using, that's not good too. So that policy has now been changed. What else can be done?
So there are a few things which need to be done. One is that since there is a projections for the vaccine availability, the Indian government, especially central government, should prepare a detailed month-wise plan for the availability of vaccines. It's not enough to say that you will have a 1.35 billion by December. Let's break this into a month-wise. Then break this into state-wise, that how much vaccine will go to each of the states. So states know that what is coming to them. So central government need a detailed month-wise plan which can be monitored. No harm, it need to be revised every month, that's fine, but let's be that transparent. State government need to prepare their state-specific plan that if they are going to get that kind of vaccine, how they are going to utilize. So we need that kind of plan for national level and for each of the states till December, and possibly a broad midterm plan for the next year. Second part, private sector, we know that the vaccine production will go up. Private sector cannot consume the type of allocation which has been made to the private sector. We know that there are only 5% of the facilities, vaccination centers in private sector, while they are getting 25%. Now, even if we give a benefit of that they are doing outreach sessions, it should not be more than 10% of the total allocation, or rather it should be based upon actual requirements. So that need to be revised. Third part is that we are making a big mistake, and we have discussed this in the past, that India is not paying attention to vaccine inequity, which essentially means we are covering only urban setups. We are within urban setup, we are covering rich and middle class, and the slums and marginalized populations are being missed. And the rural area, tribal area, people are jumping into river, and we are not doing. So there is inequity that those population are not being covered. So there are two dimensions. One, vaccine inequity, that vaccine is not reaching to those people whom it should reach, and there should be strategy to do that, achieve that. And one of the biggest mistake which is being made, that in COVID dashboard, that kind of equity stratified data is not available. Unless you analyze that data, that who is being missed, who is getting the vaccine, you cannot plan and target. So I think that's one of the biggest mistake, and that is leading to the inequity. Fourth and final part is that vaccine hesitancy, which I have already reflected, that this is a reality. There are a number of studies which have been done, which have found that only 60% people accept vaccine. Even in the urban middle class people who can afford and who have telephone. There was a recent article in one of the leading newspapers which said that they surveyed 14 habitations of urban slums, and they found only 7% of the population in that those kind of subgroups were willing to get vaccinated. So that's a level of vaccine hesitancy. And unless we are going to work on that, prepare a detailed plan. And I want to reflect 30 seconds on this, that what do I mean when I say detailed plan? I mean that the apprehensions and fears of that population should be scientifically studied. And once we know that what is causing vaccine hesitancy in them, a professional agency which is involved in marketing, like real professional agency who know how to change the behavior of individual, should develop a strategy. And government should design, implement that strategy now onward. It's not enough that you put a billboard on somewhere or put a newspaper front page advertisement expecting that people will come and take the vaccine. It requires individual intervention. I can keep speaking about, but I stop here. These are the 4 points which government need to do, and there can be many more if we sit together and discuss more.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I hope, apart from reading newspaper articles, the government also watches some of the, comments that the experts make on these conversations as well, and stuff that all of you also write. Avantika, for example, you've also written and studied very deeply the kind of per day vaccination pace we've seen in the month of June, and especially in the last 10 odd days. Now, while many say, how does it matter if it's high one day and low the other day? As long as more people are getting vaccinated, it should be fine. Does it matter? Is it a problem for at least the planners at the local level?
I think, the problem there is that we are looking at daily records rather than a sustained pace of vaccinations. I don't recall if it was in your show, but I remember saying somewhere that, we are looking at vaccinations as a 2020 match when it's really a league. You have to keep winning day after day after day. And if it means that instead of your target of 1 crore per day, which is the ideal, and we have no hope of reaching any reasonable levels of vaccination if we don't do it. But even if we can't do that, doing a 60 lakh every day is a far better option than doing 90 lakh one day and doing, for example, I was just looking at today's numbers. Till 7 p.m. today, it's just 25 lakh vaccinations. So I think we are looking at setting daily records and just proving that, yes, we can do it rather than, keeping a sustained pace. That's one. Also, taking off from what Dr. Leheria said, I think part of the reason why there is so much vaccine hesitancy, even when we've seen how horrible the pandemic can be, I think is because of the government's reluctance, and somebody else also mentioned that, government's reluctance to come out with the scientific studies that it is relying on when it is deciding vaccine strategy. For example, when they decided to change the Covishield gap, ideally, abroad in England, when such decisions are taken, the studies that have informed that decision are given out upfront, and that should be the way here also. Part of the reason, for example, why we had vaccine hesitancy in the beginning is because of the uncertainty about Covaxin. The Covaxin data was not forthcoming. And we hear very, very senior people, very prominent policymakers, we hear telling them, please trust us. How can we trust you with our lives if you will not trust us with the information that we deserve to have before we're taking a decision? That is a very important thing. And also, as for projections have to be real. This is not a PR exercise that we say we'll have so many hundreds of crores. Please tell us realistic estimates. This is so wrong.
Fair enough. In fact, Murli, you wanted to come in on this as well. You had a view on this because there's much debate. 80 lakhs one day and then 33 lakhs another day, 17 lakh in one state on one day, and then it drops the second day. Is that a problem?
It's a problem at many different levels. On hesitancy, Tanvi, we've spoken before. If you're expecting that every day I will check CoWIN, and then CoWIN tells me nothing is available, and then I will not trust CoWIN, and then go hopping from one vaccination center to another vaccination center, hoping that one of them will give me a dose, then wait for 4 or 5 hours there, and then be told at 2 p.m. that, sorry, you have to come back tomorrow because we have run out of doses today. How many people will invest day after day after day doing this exercise? So hesitancy is driven by several factors. First is communication from government. 2, the science that they keep using but don't show us. 3, the barriers to actually getting vaccines. We have personal stories. I know how much time it took me to get myself vaccinated, the hoops I had to jump through, and I was determined to do it, so I did it. But I don't expect anybody else to want to do this. The vast majority of the population can't spend days on end looking for vaccines, going from one center to another. So unless we deal with all of this, even if we do get, let's say, 80 crore doses next month, it seems a hard shot, but let's assume we get it. we may not have 80 crore people wanting to get vaccinated every month, let's say in September, October, November, and December. So if we don't work on hesitancy today, we don't plan supply today, then we might end up with a situation where we won't achieve our targets, not just by December, but by perhaps August next year.
Yeah.
So there's a combination of both demand side and supply side, and we just seem to be ignoring all of this. We're too focused on saying we have vaccinated 1 New Zealand today and 2 Australias tomorrow. You know, we are the best in the world. COVID is the best. We are going to give COVID to the rest of the world. We're making all these announcements. Well, it is not really comforting. What it does is create complacency to say people saying, it's okay, everything is under control. It is not. Things are going to get worse. And some amount of getting that message across to people is not going to create panic. It's actually going to get people to realize how serious this is.
Absolutely.
Messaging from the government isn't helping, right? You're telling people take kadas. Even today, we get MLAs, MPs, and ministers having posters which say take Ayush 64, do this and do that. So obviously, people are getting mixed messages, and this isn't getting better. So I worry that the seriousness about vaccination is just not getting through, both on the demand side and on the supply side.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, you know, the ad hoc communication that both of you highlighted, I think is a big problem for me. And if people have to watch out for what's being said on one Twitter handle or another Twitter handle, or is being shared on one group, or some app is putting out alerts for you, or all of that is such an ad hoc way of informing people how to go about planning their lives so they can get a vaccine shot, you know, and there is no hesitancy. Completely out of time, but a big thank you to all of our panelists. It's been an extremely enlightening conversation. Suffice to say, viewers, this is not to say that X or Y is at fault. There is some big system failure and a massive vaccine shortage that we're looking at. This conversation is to get real. This conversation is to say, let's look at the facts, accept the reality, and then learn to plan better. Every conversation that we've had highlighting the various aspects, the hurdles and the challenges of our vaccination program has been done with that intent. Every time we said that we don't believe the government's target of 216 crore doses, we meant it. And it was important to be realistic, because otherwise you are just allowing people to plan their lives, plan their businesses, plan their cities, and travel everything with the hope that things will be completely fine by December. Now that the government has rationalized it, it is still important to ask, why have these cuts been made? And are these current estimates realistic? Look at this. Look at the way the businesses and the stock markets are reacting, hoping everybody will be vaccinated by end of this year, because the government keeps reiterating it. Now, what are you going to tell them? That Bharat Biotech is to blame because they can't supply, or Serum is to blame because they can't supply what was ordered? Let's get realistic. Let's address the facts and use those facts to plan our policy and our vaccination drive better. That's the only way to go forward. Thank you for joining us.